this week is the perfect time to really talk about the political scene and more specifically the British right-wing political scene. So I think most of us in this room are quite clear that we think the country is broken, and many of us I think it's beyond repair. I don't happen to share that view, but the feeling is very dire amongst people in our country, and amongst younger people I think it's incredibly angry. You know, people are incredibly angry about what the political class have done to our country, and that is why you're seeing politics changing so much. And there's one man actually who's been responsible for a lot of the change that we've seen in politics in Britain, and that man is Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform UK. He is probably Britain's most successful politician in terms of pushing his political viewpoint. So if you look at a couple of his electoral successes, you know, in 2015 with UKIP, 3.9 million votes, and he got the Conservative Party to commit to the EU referendum. 2016, that EU referendum, it would not have happened and we would not have won if it wasn't for Nigel Farage and his sort of political movement and vehicle that he created. 2019, you had the Brexit Party, in which the Brexit Party won the European elections and kicked out Theresa May subsequently. And then obviously in 2024, you had the general election when Reform elected 5 MPs. Basically all off the back of Nigel's sort of political personality. So he has a proven track record of electoral success. And at the same time as that success, he has been able to push forward things and issues that previously would have never been able to be discussed. The main one that comes to mind is immigration. You know, I was too young to really remember it, but at the time, his Breaking Point poster, you know, that famous poster of the illegal migrants crossing through Europe, that was a huge pivotal moment in the political discussion of this country. And he really pushed the boundaries of what was acceptable and what politicians were willing to talk about. And so the question that I always ask is, where would the British right be without Nigel Farage? And to me, the British right would be irrelevant. You know, you've just had 14 years of the Conservative Party totally destroying our country. Without Nigel Farage, you would have no alternative vehicle, and that alternative vehicle is Reform. So Nigel in Reform has created what is an electorally, nationally successful party. And it's a right-wing party that's topping the polls. It's now at 30% in the polls. It is set to form the next government. It is set to kill both Labour and the Conservative Party. It's set to smash 100 years, a century of political consensus. And it's doing all of that on a hugely radical political agenda. So now you have Nigel Farage, Zia Youssef, senior party figures out in public telling the public we are committed to mass deportations. Again, think back 2 years ago. You would have never have heard that type of rhetoric and that type of policy. You also have the policy of abolishing indefinite leave to remain, which is essentially taking away the immigration status of millions of people in this country and saying to them, you've got to reapply, and we may or may not give you a visa to stay in our country. You've also got policies such as social housing only for British citizens. So you've got 30% of the electorate now, a winning cohort of the electorate, backing those radical policies. Yet the debate online, amongst the online right, is that Reform isn't radical enough, is that Reform doesn't go far enough, or that some people don't like Nigel Farage personally, or there's too many Tories. Now, whether you think that last one is a valid criticism, you know, I'm sure we can discuss about it, but the call online now is for a new party, even though the party that these people have been dying and crying out for the past decade already exists. Now, this concerns me not electorally, because quite frankly, I think the options on offer will fail and will falter. What it does concern me with is that it's wasting people's energy, and it's specifically wasting the energies of many of the young people in this room and the young people watching at home. So I'd like to speak directly to those younger people, and that's what I'm trying to do on this tour, which is that if you want to have any type of influence and impact the future of this country, if you want to utilize the early years of your life, of your working life, then get on board and join in reform. It is about creating the next generation of politicians. It's about creating the next generation of civil servants, of political advisors, of policy advisors. I understand the urgency and the radicalism and the frustration that many of our young right-wingers across the country feel. I am one of those radicals. I always have been. But what working for Nigel and working for Reform has really taught me is that patience is the top political personality trait that ensures that you are successful. You've got to take millions of people with you, millions of people across the country with you on an issue. You can't just go on Twitter and say whatever you want and expect to win the next election. That is not how this is going to work. So my message to everyone in this room and my message to people watching is get involved, apply for jobs. We've got James Orr, the head of policy here. He is looking for policy people to influence the next government. Please get involved, please do apply. And I hope this sort of short speech today has convinced many of you to do so.